to Quack&Co, the board game channel, where every video is 10 minutes less, guaranteed, or double your money back. And today we are going to be talking to you about our preparations for the biggest board game convention in the United States of America, Gen Con.
We are two different people, which might surprise you, because as a married couple,
we might seem like the same person.
We might seem like the same
brother
person.
and sister. We're not.
It's not. Okay, default. Either way, we're on our way to Gen Con.
Next week, in fact. And we are going to talk to you about some of the factors and considerations and preparations we do leading up to a convention, and some of the ways we manage the convention stress, as people call it.
It might surprise you, we each have different priorities.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, and we also have we recently went to Origins and had a different experience than we have had in the history of our relationship, which, go check out that vlog. We played a lot more games. We stick together as a couple instead of having a more business mindset.
So if many of you are going to Gen Con or any convention this year for the first time, Gen Con specifically, I'd like to let you know that the first time I went to Gen Con, I had an amazing time at the one booth I came there for, and a miserable time every other part of the convention. It was big, overcrowded, overwhelming. I didn't want to walk the floor. My feet hurt. I didn't know what I was shopping for. I had no idea it was a hot release. Every line was way too long, and I just wanted to see the one thing I wanted to see. But that didn't take 3 days to see.
Was Gen Con your first ever board game convention?
It was, yeah. I went for Kingdom Death.
You brought me into the board game convention sphere and dropped me at Gen Con for the first time ever.
And you also...
And I cried. I cried.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming, and this was still in the middle of pandemic. This was still 2021, when everyone was still masking. The crowds were like so minimal. Everyone was like, "This is such a light convention." I was like, there are people all around me. I can't hear myself think. My badge didn't have my name on it. It was set me over the edge. So since then, I have been to numerous numbers of conventions. I've learned how I like to handle it. I've learned how my husband likes to handle it.
The most
and how we handle it
important advice I can give you with any convention, but very specifically with a larger convention like Gen Con, you have to go in knowing what you want to accomplish. What games do you want to demo? What things do you want to play? Are you going to be scheduling events? Are you going to be hosting your own game group? Are you going to be playing solo games? Do you have a budget? Do you know what you're trying to purchase or where your flexibility is? If you don't go in with a direction, you'll get swept up in the movement of the convention, and then you'll find somewhere a couple hours into it, maybe mid-afternoon when you're starting to feel hungry, you need to go to the restroom, and your feet are completely exhausted, that you're not having fun and you got lost somewhere along the way.
In a similar vein, when you're going on vacation, you should actually structure your vacation and plan your activities instead of just saying, I'm just gonna have a lazy day. You end up having more fun. You end up feeling better when you have a structure to your day and you plan things. So I would walk in having a top 5 goals of what you want to accomplish, and if those 5 goals are met, you've had a successful convention. For us as content creators, I have a list of games that I would like to demo, I'd like to try out and possibly bring home. I'm going to go through prior to actually getting to the convention and go through the publishers and list them in order of how we will approach them by haul. So like I will put them in order of the 800s, well, the 100s, 200s, all the way up to the 2000s, so that as we're walking up and down the aisles, because that's usually our main approach, we like to do a walk of the entire convention hall. We will be able to stop by the booths along the way in an orderly fashion. So that's one preparation I'm going to be doing. I've already gone through a bunch of other people's videos. I've gone through the BGG thread about the Gen Con releases, and I've looked up the games that I'm interested in checking out. So those are going to be high on my list. We are going to be reaching out to some publishers to hopefully sit down with them and do an official demo or playtest of the game, and maybe happening upon some other ones at the convention.
Yeah, so another piece of advice I have for those that are going to Gen Con is if there's things you want, like games you're really trying to sit down and play, or things you really want to purchase, and you know the hierarchy of those things, you really will be able to get your hands on them, but it will probably take a little bit of extra effort on your part. And if you're going to be super disappointed because you didn't walk home with that new expansion or the new title from your favorite publisher, or you didn't get in line for like the Kingdom Death booth in time enough to get the one limited release they have, I don't know what they have this year. I'm just saying in general, there's things like that exist. You should show up on time.
You should show up on time, and that should be your first activity of that day. Yeah. And so you should not have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You should not have more than 4 things that you will be miserable if you don't go home with. Because
by Sunday, most of them are sold out.
Sunday, most of them are sold out.
So really, the first 2 days, maybe Saturday, because a lot of publishers will hold over some stock.
Yeah, and so if there's something that will make or break your convention experience for you, you should make a beeline for that booth. Even if you have to wait online for the first half hour of the day, it'll be worth it if you have that product.
Stuff to carry stuff.
Stuff to carry stuff?
Stuff to carry stuff. Shira, you're an expert at stuff to carry stuff.
I am an expert. I have bags and bags and bags.
You have bags that fit inside of other bags so that when you run out of space in your initial bags,
you have more bags.
Got more bags.
I actually I had a Kickstarter fulfilled this week that I had backed a while ago called Nano Bags. These bags can carry up to 60 pounds worth of weight. They will be inside my backpack at Gen Con to carry extra games. Usually some of the booths will be handing out bags as well, but you might consider purchasing a board game bag that you can wear as a backpack. You also might want to take into consideration of having a very heavy backpack on your back all convention will result in pain.
You need room to carry things and keep your hands free a bit. So think through how you're going to structure your purchase orders, how long you're going to be keeping an item with you through the duration of the game, and how you're going to make it as easy as possible for you to get around comfortably without bumping it, without getting in the way, or without it being a constant nuisance. And if you're getting a big game, if you're picking up a copy of Kingdom Death or all the expansions, if you're grabbing a copy of Chip Theory games, anything, or you're interested in Madara, these size games require a dedicated pick-up and drop-off. Don't try to walk through the convention with them unless you have a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, and people do bring wagons to the convention.
Yeah.
One thing that's really important on my list is your physical needs. So that is getting adequate amounts of sleep, that is staying hydrated, that is making sure you know where a bathroom is and stopping there semi-regularly throughout the day, having Tylenol and Advil. Sometimes the convention hall can get a little loud and it might be a little bit of too much noise for your usual standards and you'll get a headache. Caffeine, snacks like granola bars and water bottles are great. Those are just some of the staples that we usually carry around and plan for throughout the day. Planning to get lunch and dinner.
If you happen to not be Jewish and you can eat non-kosher food, there's lots of amazing food options for you. There's an entire venue with food trucks.
Yes.
There's amazing restaurants around. Be mindful though. The moment you start thinking to yourself, oh, I'm getting a little peckish, everyone else is too. So schedule the time that you're going to eat either slightly before what the natural wave of everyone else is going to be. If you usually eat around noon to 1, maybe try to eat and grab a bite like 10:30 or 11. That'll bind you over for the rest of the convention. Or push it off a little bit, have snacks with you in the convention hall so you don't have to leave and miss a couple hours of walking, playing, talking, and demoing for the sake of standing in line at a food truck, which does have great food, but isn't really why you're here, although it might be why you're here at the convention. Your friend group. Hopefully you're going with a friend group. Going with a friend group can oftentimes open up the doors to gameplay opportunities beyond the convention hall. You sit down at other tables, play games from the game library, and play things that you just purchased. A lot of people use this as a retreat weekend to get some time to sit at the table without a lot of distractions. But don't be scared to leave your game group. If you find yourself in a position where they're playing a game that you're not really interested in, or there's something that you really want to do that they're not following along with, whether that's checking out the new cool restaurant or bar, checking out a game that you want to run to buy early in the morning, make sure you choose, like John Deloney says, regret over resentment. Don't get bitter and angry at the people you're with. Instead, let them have their con. Let them play their con. And then schedule a time to come back together, sit down, and enjoy what you're really there for anyway, which is games. I know sometimes when I feel like I'm with a group of people and I'm bound to them, and we're all kind of making compromises for the sake of what every individual person wants to do, instead of just being like, hey, we'll meet in 3 hours.
Yeah.
I find that I get more and more frustrated with the experience.
Yeah.
Any other major things people should consider?
Don't feel obligated to stay in the convention hall the entire time. There are a lot of other opportunities around the convention. There's a lot of RPGs that get demoed in private rooms. There's a lot of activities and events that are happening on that you need to be prepared. You might have to have bought tickets prior to in advance. There's also some quiet rooms as well that I have been hearing about and wanting to check out in case it gets overstimulating for you. Don't feel like you need to stay in that massive hall the entire day. There's a lot of other things in Indianapolis to do.
Okay, and at the end of the day, you just should go have a good time.
Yeah.
Play board games, buy board games, and spend time with friends. Because after all, that's the entire point of this hobby, to sit across the table, to laugh, think a little bit, and of course brag when you win, naturally, because you're a hero in my book. Either way.
Less time watching.
Means more time playing.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.